Hola, 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 bienvenidos, damas y caballeros, a otro episodio en vivo. Right, we're live here in direct. Want to welcome you in. Bienvenidos a todos. So, want to first, give a disclaimer here. We normally go live at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, but when I set this up, I was actually in Mexico when I arranged a time frame for this. So, us going live at 11 a.m. is 11 a.m. on the West Coast, but it's technically 2 p.m. here on the East Coast. So that is the reason why it is 2 p.m. today, but we will go back to our 11 a.m. schedule in the future here for next Saturday as well. So let's go ahead and jump off into what we're talking about today. I'm super excited that you're here in the building, ready to hear some key pointers that may help steer you in the right direction when it comes to learning a language, right? So it doesn't necessarily have to be Spanish because these tips are guaranteed to work with any language. It's just how you apply them. And we're going to look at some ways to help you build your vocabulary in an unconventional way. All right. So we're looking to do that today. And so before we get into the unconventional, we're going to address the elephant in the room here with the probably the most conventional ways people improve or increase their language vocabulary. We're speaking specifically with Spanish vocabulary, right? So we're going to take a look at that as far as the more common ways that people try to learn Spanish. So we'll pull that up on the screen in a second here. But remember, our focus point today is to try and bring you some less conventional ways, some things that are kind of off the wall that you would never think about doing. We're going to look at those. So as an added bonus, like we said, I'm going to include 7 of the more common ways to build your Spanish vocabulary. So let's take a look at the first few here. The most common ways to build your vocabulary in a language. These are some that you may already be doing. If not, go ahead and add these to your Spanish toolbox, to your bucket here as you fill your bucket up today with some methods and strategies that can help improve. Okay, so we've got flashcards, number 1. All right, now, of course, it's 2023. Many people have flashcards that are, like technology based, right? Or you've got the electronic aspect of a flashcard. So a lot of people use Anki, they use Quizlet. There's a few of those that people are working with, or you might just do the old fashioned way and actually put it on an actual index card and flip it over and put the English on one side and the Espanol on the other side, right? So flashcards, number 1. Number 2, what are we looking at here? Reading daily. Okay, this is one of the more common ways to boost your vocabulary in any language, right? They tell us that, in order to increase your vocabulary in English, you should read, right? And remember, we talked about the amount of words that a person knows in Spanish normally determines where their language barrier is as far as being a beginner or a person that is conversational or a fluent or native speaker. Remember, there was a word range, right? 250 to, I think it was like 500. We talked about that person being like a beginner. Person between 1,000 and 3,000 was more of a conversational type person, right? And anything above that was advanced and fluent. So reading daily, that's going to be one of the methods, more conventional ways of improving your Spanish vocabulary. Okay, so número 3, what do we got here? We got language learning apps. I know everybody pretty much in this day and age has come across a language learning app, right? Duolingo probably is number 1 for a lot of people, right? You jump out there with your Duolingo. I personally like Busuu, and there's a new one coming out, Fluyo. So I'll be talking about those later on here, but Busuu, I think I like it for the purpose of being able to engage with live, like real people, and they correct and edit and proofread and listen to your your speaking ability. So Busu, I'll put that in the chat. I'll also put it in the description. You can check it out. I'll have a link for that. Let me get that and I'll bring it to you momentarily. So language learning apps. You also got your language learning program, your language learning programs like, Rosetta Stone, what is it? Pimsleur. Those are some of the ones that people are using, right? As far as technology based, as far as apps are concerned. So definitely take a look at those if you have not worked with any language learning apps. Hey man, shout out to you. I actually would commend somebody doing it the old fashioned way, like, I had to do when it was dinosaurs and no technology to learn a language. Let's look at number 4. Número 4. Aquí tenemos watch authentic media. Watch authentic media. Now, we talked about this briefly a couple of weeks ago where people were like, hey, man, people tell me all the time, watch a movie or listen to songs in Spanish or, watch a TV show, watch the weather, whatever. Like, that's great. But the downside is, like, if you don't know what you are, hola, senor, west side. If you do not know what you're listening for, chances are it can be a little rough, right? It can be a little rough. So you want to make sure that you know what to listen for, have a game plan. We talked about that in our last live a couple of weeks ago. So make sure you go in with a game plan of understanding what it is that you want to achieve when you are listening or watching this authentic media. And what I mean by authentic media means language that you acquire in, there you go, Pooh Man. Absolutely. Authentic media means language that you acquire in the target language that you're looking to acquire. Okay. The target language that you're looking to acquire. That's what we mean by accessing it in its authentic form. Okay, so that's what we mean by watch authentic media. Make sure you have a game plan. That's the most important thing when you go into watching or listening to particular things in Espanol. All right, so now let's take a look at number 5, practice speaking, right? This is one of the ways that you're going to build your vocabulary. And my secret, to using this conventional way of building your vocab is simply getting into a conversation, knowing ahead of time what it is that you want to accomplish in that conversation. So, for example, if I know, okay, I'm getting ready to talk to Pedro in like a couple of hours, game plan, like structure what it is that you're going to talk about. And so that way you're not like a bump on a log when you get to a point where you're like, man, what was the word I needed? Prepare in advance what it is that you want to say in a particular setting. I know I need to talk to, Pedro, he's coming over. We're going to talk about, new music or whatever, or cars or whatever. Know what the vocab is that you need to insert into that conversation ahead of time. Okay. And then that kind of helps you. And then, work that, review it, go over and over with it prior to actually using it. It's a rehearsal, right? If you think about the concept of learning a language and being in a conversation in Espanol as a beginner or as an intermediate or an advanced learner, think of it as you are in an acting role, right? And you've got to rehearse your lines. And this is the concept that you need to bring into play here. If you think of it from a standpoint of I'm rehearsing and acting, when I go into that live performance, which is AKA the conversation with Pedro, that you are actually ready to go. Okay, you are ready to go. So make sure you do that. Number 6. I know this is like super, super ancient for a lot of people. The use of a dictionary. Now, of course, who's carrying around an actual dictionary nowadays, right? We've got the dictionary on our phones. We've got ChatGPT. We've got SpanishDictionary.com. We've got Google Translate. These are all versions of dictionaries, right? WordReference.com. All of those are actually uses of dictionary. Utilize them. Those are dictionaries. Use them to help you further your ability and improving your vocabulary, as well as helping you in your conversation. So make sure you reference those when you are looking to build. And I would also challenge you to, we'll talk about this in a little bit. I'll get into the challenge a little later here. But let's go ahead and finish up number 7 here. These are the 7 conventional ways, right? The 7 conventional ways to learn a language, the more popular ways that people are learning languages. And if you're finding value today in this, go ahead and click the link. If you're watching on the replay, click the thumbs up there to give that a like, and then share this out if you're watching it live, or if you're watching it on the replay, share it out so we can get these strategies and techniques down and these methods of learning not only the conventional but unconventional ways of a language, so that people can have a better game plan when they go into learning Spanish. And we're talking specifically Spanish, but if you know somebody that, hey, I'm trying to learn French, or Thai, or Cambodian, whatever you want to learn, you can still use these techniques and strategies to assist. All right, so number 7, we are talking about language exchanges. Okay, so if you don't know what a language exchange is, basically, for example, like here in my city, we have what is called the International House, right? So you can go down to the International House and engage in a conversation with somebody that's either learning the language like you are, or they are a native speaker, or they're fluent in the language. And you can simply sit down and have a conversation and talk about what it is that you want to talk about. And all the time you are building your courage and confidence in the language, but you're also building your vocabulary and learning words on the go, right? So definitely engage in a language exchange with an actual person. If you can't do it in person, always check it out and find a virtual partner. Those are available. You can go pretty much anywhere on Facebook. You can find those available to you. There are WhatsApp groups, there are Discords, they're everywhere. So make sure you take advantage of those. All right, damas y caballeros, vamos a continuar. Now, this is the good stuff. This is what we are working on right now. We're talking about the less conventional, non-conventional ways to build your Spanish vocabulary. These are the things that are off the beaten path, right? So we want to make sure that people are aware of these as well, so that you have some things to change up, right? I like a change up, baseball, the change up. Oh, the floater, hit them with the floater, right? But a less conventional or non-conventional way of learning a language is probably going to help you break that monotony that you may have while you are trying to learn vocabulary, right? So if you throw in a left hook when they were expecting the uppercut, oh boy, like you've got something that you can put into use to kind of give you some excitement, right? It's kind of like muscle memory, right? So if you switch it up, it's like, oh, you didn't hit me with that one before, right? So you want to think about it from that standpoint. All right. Absolutely, Pooh Man. I'm with you. I'm the same way. So I definitely agree with that one. I want to learn multiple languages as well. And once you tap into you tap into these methods and strategies, it becomes a lot easier for you to pick up other languages. Okay. There's some like neurological things and advancements that people can use. I know a young lady that works out of Great Britain. Shout out to Renee. She actually works on that, and I'll see if I can't add her Instagram link, but she actually works from a neurological standpoint on how people can utilize and tap into some higher order thinking to increase their language abilities in various languages. So I'll definitely get that added in as well. So right now, what we're looking at is number 1, right? This is unconventional. It's not saying that you don't do it, but it is unconventional. It is not very popular. We're talking about labeling your surroundings. Okay. All right. So we're talking about getting sticky notes, the little strips of, let me show you what I'm talking about here. All right, so I'm back. So check it out. So we've got these, and I'm going to show these to you. And you can literally walk around your house and do this with these little strips right here, right? These strips, or you can take the big jumps to use the sticky notes and label everything in your house, your bedroom. Start small. Don't need to go everywhere with it. You don't want to go in the dining room, especially if you don't go into your dining room, right? Like, why are we labeling stuff? I'm not even in there, or, I'm not in the guest room. Why am I labeling things? Make sure you're labeling where you are most heavily using or utilizing the items in your house, right? Bathroom, right? Bedroom, kitchen, living room, right? Office, whatever you have, label those places first, okay? Label those places first in Spanish, in Espanol, or whatever language that you are working towards, and leave them there. And as you come across them, like subliminally or subconsciously, you will look at those items, and every time you pass it, you don't realize that you're doing it, but you're looking at the item and then you're seeing the sticky note, and it's embedding in your brain, right? This is a method that we call immersive learning, right? This is how we immerse ourselves into a language without actually being able to live overseas or actually taking an active role in learning, right? Taking an active role. This is very passive, right? I'm just passing through the living room, passing through the kitchen. I happen to actually gaze upon the sticky note. Oh man, cuchara, cuchillo, right? Fregadero, right? I just see them. Okay, so you want to definitely take advantage of that. This strategy simulates the kind of language immersion like you would have if you were, to experience living in a country where that language is spoken, right? So that's how it works, right? So what are we getting when we get that, right? We're getting constant exposure to the language, right? You're labeling these items around your house, your office. You're regularly seeing the Spanish words for everyday items. This frequent exposure is going to help cement these words into your memory, right? What's the next thing that we're doing, right? The number two thing that you are doing is we're getting word picture association, right? Word picture association. We call it contextual learning, right? So when you learn in words in context, that is like in relation to something concrete and meaningful, right? When I see that sink, I see the sticky note, that's meaningful, right? You're more than likely to remember seeing them, that picture along with the word. For example, if I got a cabinet, right, gabinete, and then I open the cabinet up, I've got cabinet written on there, but I open it up and I got a sticky note hanging that says platos, right? I'm going to associate platos with that word when I see the dishes or trastes, whatever word that you are learning for dishes. So, another example, seeing the Spanish word refrigerador or nevera, right? Every time you open the fridge, you're going to associate that word nevera or refrigerador with the actual object and its use, right? So label these surroundings. And number three thing, just under this umbrella of labeling your surroundings, we're talking about active engagement, right? The act of labeling items requires you to actively search for and write down the Spanish translations for items in your environment, right? This active engagement with the language can reinforce your memory of the words. So I don't know if this falls in line with you, but for me growing up, I was one of those people. Oh, and I'll give you another example, but I was one of those people that where you had to write things down to memorize them. And I've got two examples. So, I took my ADHD medicine, but I'm still focused right here. So let's take the example. If you are old as me, you watch Sesame Street, right? There was this little kid, his mom told him to go to the store and she said, hey, I want you to get me a carton of eggs, a container of milk, and some other thing, right? But he literally wrote it down, right? Or somebody wrote it down. But then as he was walking to the store, what was he doing? He was repeating that list over and over and over in his head, right? So he sees the picture. Well, we saw him anyways. The word bubbles popped up. We saw the carton of eggs, the container of milk, and something else. And I'm talking, this is probably like 35 years ago, 40 years ago. So for it to stick in my brain, like think about that, right? Think about how that concept can be utilized from an adult standpoint. And a lot of people don't realize this, but when we think about learning a language, you want to jump in like you're an adult and like you've been doing this for years, right? But we've got to realize that we've got to start at the bottom, right? Start from the bottom. With this language thing, you've got to start from the very beginning. And when I mean the very beginning, it's from a baby standpoint. You are a baby, right? So you've got to think from that standpoint. I just can't jump off into this and think I can write a dissertation in Spanish, right? You've got to start at the bottom, start with the basics, okay? From a baby's perspective and then grow in the language. Okay, you want to grow in the language, and this is one of the ways that's going to help you grow in the language. Let's see what the people got to say right here. We're going to pause for a little second. Let's see. Pooh Man says, I remember learning how to read the books like The Cat in the Hat, Green Eggs and Ham, Charlotte's Web. I was thinking about getting them in different languages on my Fire tablet. Come on, man. That's what I'm talking about. Let me tell you something. So we know Prime Day is coming up, right? I did a video on this. This is back when we were talking about strategically planning for 2023, becoming fluent this year, right? And I gave the nuggets, the gems away here about buying beginner books in languages. What I mean by beginner books, these are examples, but there are actually books set up for levels, a beginner, an intermediate, an advanced learner. They have these books, they're short books, and I don't like to really read, so keep the book short and sweet. They have these books already set up for you to work on what it is that you're actually talking about. So check out Amazon Prime. You can literally type in like readers, like Spanish readers. And I'll see if I can add some links here. But that is exactly what I'm talking about. Do something that you know and start from the basics, right? Start from the bottom. Let's see what else we have here. Seek Understanding says, I've been watching the cartoon Bob Esponja, right? I love that one, Bob Esponja. Actually, it was on TV a couple of times. Mi hija or mija, depending on where you're from, was watching it while we were in Mexico. Super hilarious, right? I never really watched it in English, but to watch it in Spanish, I was just like, oh, this is pretty cool. So yes, Bob, what is it? SpongeBob. Yeah, SpongeBob, right? It helps with comprehensible input. Absolutely. And there's some things that I just watched with my daughter on Netflix, like the Camp Cretaceous, right? Dinosaurs. We love it. Like we flip the language over and over again. Man, Disney apps, bro. I'm talking about like Coco, Moana. We watched that a million times. My girl Mirabel and Encanto. Like those are things that we have flipped over into Spanish and we watch on a daily one. Yeah, pretty much a daily basis. Can't even lie. We're gonna watch something at some point today, right? So it's coming. So in other words, start with the alphabet. That helps with pronunciation. Start from the bottom. Got a video on that as well. Not necessarily on the alphabet, but the 10 most important letters, right? There's 10 important letters that will change your life in Spanish. And if you master those 10, you will be able to function. Now, is that saying, hey, don't go back and learn the alphabet? I say learn the alphabet. I always start with all of my clients. We start from the bottom. Alphabet, right? Are there links to learning the alphabet on YouTube? Absolutely. Have I done a video on learning the alphabet? No. Not on YouTube. I have the course available for it, but I definitely would suggest typing in, hey, learn the Spanish alphabet. There's some cool ones. There's two that I always use. There's a military chant one that like kind of speeds up. Then there's one with like this dog. Forget the name of that guy. It's like a little kid Spanish. Starts with Basho, right? Type in Basho alphabet, Basho, Basho, and that will take you into just type Spanish alphabet. I'm gonna type this in the chat so that you can see it. Buenas tardes, señor Will. ¿Cómo está, señor? I know you're over there in Colombia, in Cali. Hope everything is well, señor. Hey, I'm just glad you're here. I'm glad you're here. Don't worry about, missing it. Just, catch up. Hey, just catch up. Basho Spanish alphabet. Let me put that on the screen for people. If you're looking to learn it, I really love that one. Okay. It even works with some pronunciation by combining letters, because there's some things that change depending on the vowel that follows the consonant. So he does a good aspect or good thing with that one. So I would definitely check that out as well. Let me flip that. Okay. So let's move on. Right. Let's move on, because we're not here for a long time. We're just here for a good time, as they tell us. Right. So we've got contextual learning. word picture association, right? We've talked about that. We've talked about the umbrella is learning or labeling your surroundings, right? We've got constant exposure coming in. We've got contextual learning, word picture association. We've got active engagement. That's you writing the word down, right? That's the active engagement. So we talked about the kid from Sesame Street where he was walking down the street. He had that active engagement going. His mother needs a container of milk, a carton of eggs, container of milk, and something else. I forget what the third item was, but that's constant active engagement. There was another example. If you think about this, right? This is the example that I was going to leave with. And I'm going to get off this, but I want to give you all the strategies I can. If you think about it, I want to correlate things to make you understand and help you understand what it is I'm trying to do. When you remember the Simpsons coming on, right? The trailer when it comes on at the beginning, and Bart is at the board, right? Writing he's writing sentences because he did something, right? He did something. Now for Bart, it was different, right? Bart got up there, he had to write the sentences. Did he go back and probably do the same thing that he was up there writing those sentences for in the first place? Probably. But for us in real life, right? There was the I will not throw gum, I will not chew gum, I will not speak out of turn, whatever it is that you had to write 100 times. I guarantee you after you wrote it that 100 times, you didn't go back and say, 10 minutes like, hey man, I'm just gonna go out here and do the same thing. Ms. Moore ain't gonna make me write no more, right? That shout out to Ms. Moore, my third grade teacher at Bradley Elementary in Columbia, South Carolina. That was yeah. Anyways, she got me on the right path. But yeah, writing that over and over again. By the time you got to that 100 time, that 100th time, you were probably like, hey, man, you know what? I don't think, throwing trash across the room is probably not the move. All right. I don't want to have to go through this writing thing. So that's one of the things that I was suggesting there when we're talking about active engagement. Number 4 is natural recall under labeling your surroundings. So as you go about your daily life, you'll naturally come across these labels, right? You'll see the word for door. Right? Every time you go through a door, or the word for door, or the word for window, each time you look out of a window, this means you're repeatedly recalling these words, which ultimately does what? Strengthen your memory for them. Now, when we talk about strengthening your memory, I just saw something briefly. They were talking about the FAA, not the FAA, the FHA, one of those acronyms. Anyways, FDA, that's what it was, FDA. They approved a new medicine for Alzheimer's. Okay, cool. Shout out to that. That's people that's already got it. Those loved ones that have it. Prayers to them. This is it is proven. Okay, I'm not just blowing smoke, right? It is proven that if you learn a foreign language, learn it. I'm not talking about, hey man, I dabble. I'm talking about learn it and you know it. If you learn a foreign language, you are less likely to develop Alzheimer's or dementia. Proven. Look it up, Google it. I'm not telling you any lies. Learn a foreign language because you're strengthening your memory. And what is Alzheimer's effect, right? I'm not making it up. I'm just telling you, hey, this is a good thing right here. So if you're doing it, continue to do it, right? Oh man, Puma, I'm telling you, first of all, Maria is one of the reasons why I even learned Spanish, right? From Sesame Street. Maria, shout out to Maria on Sesame Street. That was one reason back in the 70s, 78, 79. I got to learn this. All right. That was like 2, but whatever. Let's look at the last, before we get into number 2. And like I said, share this out, ladies and gentlemen, damas y caballeros, share this with people here. We're coaching. This is free coaching in this language world, right? We're trying to get you on the right track. The strategies you need to put in your toolbox, your belt, right? Your work belt to help you learn to speak a language faster, right? Some of these things people just expect you to know. I'm just giving them out for free right now, and I'm helping you think out loud like, oh, man, I could do this, that, and the third. Like we have Pooh Man right here like, let me go check out Sesame Street, see if they got a Spanish version. Or like my man Seek Understanding said, hey, I'm watching, SpongeBob. These are ideas. People should be writing this down like, bro, I'm going to check out SpongeBob. Hey, man, let me check out Sesame Street. Like we're sharing. This is it. This is what's going on. I'm just, I started the bus up. We just taking a ride. right? All right, number 5, before we get into the number 2 less conventional or non-conventional way to learn a language, number 5 under our umbrella of, let me go back, labeling your surroundings. Number 5 in this umbrella here is the incremental learning, right? By labeling things around you, you can progressively learn new words, right? As you become more comfortable with the ones that you already know. I know fork. I know spoon. I know knife. Sounds like my man on, what was that? Will Ferrell, Anchorman, was like, I love carpet. I love lamp, right? So once you get comfortable with these words, once you get comfortable with them, then you branch out. Let me see. Okay, now let me try teaspoon, right? Tablespoon, right? Hot sauce, olive oil, right? You're branching out. That's what we're doing, right? Start in the kitchen because, I like food. So that's, not going to lie. Start with common items and then gradually move to less common ones, to small details within a common item, right? So another thing is under this incremental learning, right? We're moving up the elevator by providing a form of passive learning. Us walking by, seeing the word refrigerator, nevera, or refrigerador on the refrigerator in Espanol. Labeling your surroundings complements more active forms of study. Walking around in your house and you see these and you're passively taking in these words, you're actually studying without actually sitting down to study, right? And what you're doing is you're actually accelerating your vocabulary acquisition, whether you even realize it or not. You might be like, hey, man, I didn't study my Spanish today. Got to sit down and study. Man, who cares? Get it the way you get it. Song. For real, maybe? You know what I'm talking about. Walking around in the kitchen, your bedroom, I'm seeing these words all over the place. Am I studying? Do I need to go sit down and study? You can. Do you have to? Absolutely not. You just study 15 words between 2 rooms. Passively gaining knowledge, right? See, there you go, Will. Absolutely. Hey, man, I tell no lies, baby. Tell no lies. I tell no lies. Winsboro. I see you, Will. Yeah, that's stomping grounds. We Fayetteville over here in North Carolina. In South Carolina, we got some other. That was back when I was a kid living in Fort Jackson in Columbia. Okay, so let's get over here into mnemonic devices, which is number 2. Right? If you're picking up what I'm putting down here, you're getting value, make sure you hit that thumbs up, ladies and gentlemen, damas y caballeros. And if you're watching this on the replay, we're going deep. This is a deep dive. I told you, you saw the thumbnail. It said dive into the vocabulary, right? We're diving. I don't even want to get into it. I thought about something and then I was like, hey, let's let them people live. It's too soon, right? We shout out to them. Don't want to go that route. Mnemonic devices, right? We create visual or auditory relationships with the new word. That's a mnemonic device. It can be used as it could be an image, a rhyme, a story that makes the meaning of the word stick in your mind. So we've got a couple of ways that we look at this. We've got visual imagery, right? Visual imagery. Let's take a look at visual imagery, an example really quick. Stay with me. Okay, let me see if I can make this happen. I want to show you an example of visual imagery. Okay, let me see if I can make this happen. Okay, hold on a second. Okay, trying. Here we go. Working on it. Stand by. Visual imagery. Okay, visual imagery. So I know you can see the background, right? You can see in the background the thumbnail, right? The thumbnail. Let me see. We've got the. You know what? I can do it this way. Let's take her off. We're gonna go back to this. And I'm going to show you what I'm talking about as far as visual imagery. All right. So you can see I'm just going to work it in. So here we have the thumbnail, right? Visual imagery. Okay. Think of this as a walk in the park. I mean, a walk in the gallery, the art museum, right? I see things. Okay. So every time you see this thumbnail right here, you see this woman, mujer, got it, senora, señorita, mujer, right? When you think about that word mujer, think about this face. I just did some visual imagery right there for you, okay? Visual imagery right there, okay? That's visual imagery. I'm not even gonna act like I can remember where I was. So let's go back down to where we were. We were on mnemonic devices, right? Mnemonic devices. Okay, so the number 2 thing under mnemonic devices, we got visual imagery, rhyming mnemonics, right? Rhyming mnemonics. What do I mean by that? I'll give you an example. I've got this one that I use very, very often. This deals with gender and number and the arrangement of words when you are creating a sentence using nouns and adjectives. Here it is. Always remember to match number and gender. That's a rhyming mnemonic. Whether you know what I'm talking about right there makes that doesn't matter, right? That doesn't matter, but it's an example of a rhyming mnemonic, okay? And of course, if you need to know what that is, I've got a video that talks about that, or it's a short, it's one of the two, but a rhyming mnemonic. Keyword method, okay? Keyword method, that's an example of being able to use a mnemonic device, okay? Acronyms. I use doctor, help, left, place. These are acronyms. ICE, right? Mesh. I've got an acronym pretty much for everything that I use when I'm teaching people Spanish, because acronyms help people to remember things quickly. Okay. So develop your own acronyms. If you don't have your own, I've got a few that I definitely utilize with clients. Let's look at the next one. What do we got? Music and song mnemonics, right? Music and song mnemonics. There's some out there with the song mnemonics, the music mnemonics, songs. I've created actual songs that relate to things that you need to remember in Spanish. We have things like the super irregular conjugations of verbs in el pretérito simple, right? In el pretérito simple. It goes like this. It's something like fui y vi. Then we've got quise, hice, vine yo, puse, pude, supe yo, dije, conduje, tuve yo, or dije, conduje, traje yo, estuve, anduve, tuve yo, right? These are that military chant that we've worked on, right? I've got things, when we talk about reflexive verbs, right? Commands, those are things that you develop, right? These help stick. They help them stick. Story mnemonics. Okay, an example of story mnemonics would be, I don't remember if you're a American football person, but if you remember my man that was the head coach. You can, Pooh Man. I would not. I would take the active role of actually. I would use. Okay, so what I would use is this website. I would not translate the entire book. I would do words and try to figure it out word for word situation. Don't just translate it. If you're going to do that, the chances are the best way to do it is probably like using something that's super detailed, like ChatGPT or some variation of that. I wouldn't chance it with like Google Translate or something. I like to use this website when I'm looking up words, or I tell people to look up words. Use this. This will oftentimes help you get what it is that you're looking for when it comes to a word. All right. Good, very, very good usage of that website there. as well as like wordreference.com. That is also a good one as well. But story mnemonics, all right, story mnemonics under mnemonic devices. It's an exact, whoa, Bruce Raines in the building. Buenas tardes, hermano. Buenas tardes, ¿cómo estás? So what are we talking about? Story mnemonics. Okay, check this out. You remember my guy that was the head coach of the Oregon Ducks, if you watch American football, right? A couple of years back. I mean, this is like when they were rolling, right? Forget my guy's name. Starts with a C. Somebody hit me in the chat if you can remember the guy I'm talking about. Starts with a C, but he had the University of Oregon was the first to do it, right? And then you had like Oklahoma State came out with it, right? Then you had, Washington State. Yeah, exactly. Seek, understand, you're absolutely correct. But they came out with those boards, right? You remember watching the college games, and people still use them to this day, even in the league, in the NFL, right? They had those boards, okay? Chip Kelly, there we go. Appreciate it, Pooh Man. Chip Kelly. So they had these boards, and people always looked at it. Why do they have a picture of Gucci Mane and then they got a Grimace in Hamburglar and some deodorant? Like, where did they come up with these pictures? And people don't know that those pictures told a story individually, right? Each picture was a mnemonic device that we associated when we tell plays, because as a coach, this is what I did as well. That picture would essentially tell somebody, a player, hey, this is what we have going on as far as the particular play or position, right? I don't know, I'm thinking about Black Mamba, all them dudes, man. There was a whole bunch of going on. Not Black Mamba, that was Kobe, but there was another guy that they had out there that was like, it's a whole lot going on in Oregon. Like, it was so fast, I can't even remember like who was actually playing at that point. But they had, and I think like the last one was my man, started with an M. He just recently was at Atlanta Falcons. He was like one of the last quarterbacks under that whole Chip Kelly book. Anyways, the storybook, right? The story on that actual big chart, each picture related to something specifically, and it embedded a memory in that particular player's mind that associated when they looked at that card. And so I have a card for the skill players, and I had a card then they would hold up a board for the big skill or the lineman, and that would tell them, hey, this is what you're doing, or they had signals that they have, rehearsed and embedded in their brain. And so this is the same thing. That's what a mnemonic device is. Yeah, Mariota. Yeah, that's my man's name, Marcus Mariota. He was like one of the last, I think. So I think Joey was before him. So yeah. So story mnemonics, that is related to something so that it sticks in your brain. Okay. All right. So the biggest thing to remember, though, the sillier or more outlandish the mnemonic, the more likely you are to actually remember it. It can be insane, but it's how you relate things, right? Mnemonic devices work best when they're personal and meaningful to you. I'll say that again. Mnemonic devices work best when they are personal and meaningful to you. So create your own that help you to put something to memory, okay? So feel free to create, right? Just work this thing out. So for example, I've got a mnemonic that I use as far as an acronym, ICE. I tell people about it all the time, right? I use ICE, I-C-E, ICE, right? That acronym is essentially how you set up a sentence in Spanish. Identify your subject, conjugate your verb in your sentence, ICE. Use that, and it essentially sets you up to be able to create sentences in Espanol. Created it on the spot. I was like, I need something that's going to help a person understand how to speak Spanish, right? To create a sentence. And that acronym is what I use. Okay. So definitely take a look at that. Pooh Man, I have no idea. Somebody might know about that app. I'm not going to lie, okay? I'm going to keep it 100 with everybody in here. I don't use language apps. I know. I don't use language apps. If I do, it's like Busu, which is probably like trash to some people. I don't know. But I just use it from the simple fact that I can get somebody, a real person, to review what it is that I said, and then they give me feedback. So that's why I like that one. But there might be some people in here that know about that app. My brother, Bruce Rain, he knows about some apps. Man, he might drop some in there that he's looked at. Man, I've seen a gang of stuff on Amazon. I'm talking about people got headphones now, you know, translates and interprets in real time. Hey, man, I'm like a dinosaur when it comes to these. I'm just barely getting into some of the new stuff. I just like ChatGPT. That's really what I work with right now. Bard. I'm using those from a different standpoint. All right, so let's move. All right, número tres. We're talking about non-conventional ways to learn a language, right? Número tres. We're talking about using the target language in your hobbies. Target language in your hobbies. What do we mean? Cooking is one of your hobbies. Grilling is one of your hobbies. Como se dice barbecue sauce, right? Como se dice spatula, right? Como se dice cucharadita in English, right? Those are things that I need to know because I'm a cook. I'm a grill person. That's what I do, right? What about the recetas, right? What about the recipes, right? What about recipes? I need una cucharada, right? Una cucaracha, cucharada, cucharadita, right? Mantequilla. These are things that I need. These are things, huevos, right? These are things that are in the recipes. Flip them into Espanol, into your target language, right? For ish and giggles, it's like we like to say, right? Why not? Are you actively learning or are you passively learning? Are you learning in a fun way? Don't just think, I got to look at a Duolingo, I got to look at this app, right? I got to sit down with a book, I got to write something out. That's the only way to study a language. It's absolutely false, okay? Learn the language in non-conventional ways. For example, with hobbies, cooking, music. Listen to music in the target language. Try writing the lyrics down in Spanish as you hear them in the song. Okay? My brother will tell you, Bruce Rain will tell you, I go hard in the paint on karaoke. Hard in the paint on karaoke. So, when I look at words, right. See, hey, Bruce Rain, let me put this on the board. I go hard in the paint with karaoke, right? So when I think about karaoke, and I'm a Bad Bunny fan, Bad Bunny, right? Bad Bunny, right? Bad Bunny, right? I'm a hardcore Bad Bunny fan. Do I understand everything he's saying? No. Hell, half the people that I know that are native speakers can barely understand what he's saying, right? But there are some people, like, you know, you got people that know it, and then you got some older people like, what is he talking about? So what I do, though, or Don Omar, right? I'm going to tell y'all, Danza Kuduro, I learned Spanish and Portuguese just by pulling up the lyrics on YouTube. The song Danza Kuduro Fast Five. So when I got to Costa Rica and that was popping, Fast Five was just out when I was going to study abroad there. Fast Five had just dropped. And, you know, people didn't know I knew Spanish, but I knew it at that point. But when it dropped, and I was in the club and the song was on and I knew all the lyrics. How did I know that? Okay. Look at the lyrics. Learn the lyrics. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like, y'all remember like the CDs, like back in the day when they had the CDs? And they used to, you open up the little booklet in the CD, and they had the entire song. Oh man. Did you not read that as a song was playing, or was that just me? Okay. Did you learn the song though? Okay. To all the ladies in the place with style and grace. Okay, that was me. I need to know this. I gotta know this, right? That was what I did. Okay. Music. Utilize it. Look up songs and then add with lyrics. I know you do it already. All right. Exactly. Boom. You get the exact one. Exact ones. You get the exact lyrics. Oh, but right here on the screen, we've got where Bruce Rain said napkins. This is a story mnemonic. Perfect example. Bruce Rain and I, we were out at a Mexican restaurant in my hometown, and he was working on his Spanish, and he says, how do I say napkins? I'm like, servilletas. He's like, bro. He's like, huh? Anyways, he gets it eventually, right? But because there was the atmosphere, the word, all of this going around that was happening, he all of a sudden, now, I bet you right now, he might not be able to spell it, but he can tell you how to say that word. He knows how to say más servilletas, por favor. Right? I bet he knows that. Story mnemonic. He utilized it without even knowing that's what he was doing. Okay? That's number 2. We're on number 3, target language in your hobbies. Number 3 way to do this in your hobby, reading. What if you're a reader, right? Read things. We talked about that earlier. Read things in that language. Art. Okay? What if you're an artist? All right? If you're an artist, whatever you do from an artistic standpoint, add Spanish in. This is my favorite one right here, sports. I don't know about you. 2 things I like when it comes to sports. Well, 3. Number 1, World Cup in Espanol. Okay. Huge World Cup fan. I don't watch when I don't watch like the like regular soccer, football like the regular, like, all this MLS and whatever, and watch that. But when it's FIFA and it's World Cup time, always watch it in Spanish. Super exciting if you've never done it before. Okay. Number 2 sport, football. NFL nowadays, I know you see the little thing, basketball, same way. SAP, right? Always flip it over. Super entertaining, passive learning. You know the game. You know the people playing. Why not learn the vocabulary, the vernacular that goes along with those movements or the items or the things that they're doing on the field or on the court in Espanol? Are you sitting down with a book studying? No. Are you actively or passively learning the language? You don't always have to be in an active role to learn. Passively is just as good. And it's probably faster because it's subliminal and you're not even picking up what you're putting down. Let that marinate. My 3rd, boxing. Man, I'm telling you, those 3, if you haven't, try it and listen to it. Okay? Try it. I promise you. The next thing under using the target language in your hobbies, board and card games. Spades, Uno, come on. If you're a spades player or tunk or poker or gin rummy or Uno or whatever, incorporate this into there. I got a friend, well, I'm not going to say a friend, a colleague. She's got something called speaking with spades or speaking with spades. IG. Speaking with spades out of Great Britain. Haven't played it, but it's a genius concept. All right. How you learn a language by playing spades or something like that. Pretty amazing. Gardening. If you're a gardener, okay. Horticulturist. for various types of plants, whatever. Okay. Use Spanish with it. Writing. I told you the other week, right? I had what we call the Language Olympics, right? The Language Olympics. I did that with Portuguese, right? Right. Puma said, I'm talking about. Just you tell if talk was your thing. Right. Yeah, Bruce Rain. That was a great one. Great one. Spades, exactly. These are I'm telling you, these are the ones that we want. Those are the things that are going to help us learn a language faster because you're doing things that you love to do. So why not incorporate Spanish into it? Okay. Non-conventional ways of learning a language, right? Non-conventional ways. Travel. I'm the weirdo that takes pictures in the airport when I'm in a Spanish-speaking country next to a sign, or I take a picture of a sign in Espanol. Servicios, aseos, baños, all mean bathroom. I like to look up words like aduana, right? When I'm in the airport. Reclamo de equipaje, right? I'm taking pictures. Selfie, that's me. All day in the airport in Spanish-speaking countries. Why? Because I love to travel and I'm in an airport when I'm traveling, and these are the things that I like to see and learn as I'm in the airport while I'm traveling, right? There you go. Crucigramas. Absolutely. So why not do the Spanish ones? I like it. I like it. I like it. Good stuff. All right. So in each of these activities, you're exposed to vocabulary and phrases related to your hobby, like we've been talking about, which will make the language more relevant and interesting to you, right? Plus, if you're already motivated and engaged in that particular hobby, you're more likely to stick with it, and you're going to learn the language. You're going to learn the language just by doing that, because it's fun to you, right? Football was a thing, is a thing for me. American football, fútbol americano. Why not flip that thing in Spanish, right? ESPN Deportes. So that is where we've come to the halfway point. Stick with me here. We've got about 4 more. We're going to run through those pretty quickly. But if you're joining me right here for the first time on Speak Spanish Now, soy Profe Don Omar. And on this channel, I focus on teaching you Spanish in the simplest way possible to get you to speak Spanish right now. So people often ask, how did I learn it? What did I do? Hey, man, I've got stories for days on how this came to be what I do for a profession as a career, which is helping people to learn Spanish, give them methods to language acquisition to help them acquire the language quickly, right? And in a faster rate than normal. So the only difference between me and you is that I've been doing a lot of trial and error with this thing over the course of 4 decades. Okay. Now, did it take me 4 decades to be fluent? No, absolutely not. But I did trial and error, right? And essentially, now we have the, AI, internet is making it a lot quicker and faster for you if you are somebody trying to learn. So through those trial and errors, I've, come up with strategies that I like to use. And I give all of them to you. I break them down. And right here, right now, we've got the 8 strategies to become a better Spanish speaker. If you have not picked up your copy, make sure you hit Amazon and get that ASAP. I'm telling you, the strategies in there are very non-conventional. They aren't the ones that you're seeing. Hey, man, watch a movie. Hey, man, use Duolingo. These are off the wall, off the books. These are things that you would, what? That's like some Andre 3000 Kanye way of learning Spanish. That's what's in this book. I'm going to help you learn it from a non-conventional format. Make sure you catch the link in the description below. I'll also make sure that I grab that and paste it in the chat here for everyone to see. but make sure you get that ASAP. It is definitely on sale in Amazon. So make sure you get that, and it is available to you right now. Ladies and gentlemen, let's get into numero cuatro. Let's get into number 4 here. All right, learn in context. Learn in context. Okay. What do we mean by learning in context? Instead of learning isolated words, hear me out. Isolated words are when you're on Duolingo and they show you a picture of an apple and you learn manzana, or they show you the word car and you say coche or carro, right? Those isolated words, right? You want to learn phrases or sentences. You want to learn in a chunk, right? Chunk your languages. Chunk your phrases in Spanish, okay? Chunk your languages in Spanish. I mean, your phrases in Spanish, not your languages, but chunk your phrases or sentences. When you are learning Spanish, it's gonna help you propel that much faster. Words are often better remembered when they are associated with a context, okay? ¿Dónde está el baño? Right? No tengo mi tarea. Right? These are phrases. Just learn the phrases. Learning a language in context, means learning words and phrases that they are used in real life situations. No tengo un número, right? Porque yo no tengo un teléfono, right? Those are phrases that I can learn rather than isolated in a vocabulary list or grammar exercises. It's a more holistic approach to it, and it can improve your comprehension faster and your ability to use the language naturally. Okay, so here are some examples of learning in context. Right, of how to learn Spanish in context. Conversations, number 1, write that down, jot that down, put that in your notebook, put that in your toolbox, type it into your Google Doc. Conversations, speaking with native speakers and other learners provide immediate context for language use. You'll learn how to respond to questions, make comments, and express your own ideas. All right, so that's definitely one of the ones that you can use. All right. Read stories. Exactly. All right. That's a good one. What's our next one? Under learning context. Movies and TV shows. We've talked about that, right? Watching Spanish language cinema or television shows exposes you to natural dialogues, slang, right? A lot of us want to know that. Cultural nuances, things that happen in different countries that they don't do in every Spanish-speaking country. There are differences, right? It's helpful to watch with Spanish subtitles initially, okay? Then without as you become more proficient in the language. I've got a gym that I'm sitting on. And what it is how to watch a movie in Spanish. How to learn Spanish while watching a movie in Spanish. I've got the game plan. I'm sitting on it. It will be out soon. Okay. I'm going to show you how to do it. I've already worked it out with one of my friends here that I met in Colombia, and it worked for him perfectly. So I'm definitely going to share that with you all. It's coming soon. Okay. Music, right? This is one of the ways of learning in context. Songs are full of common phrases, colloquial language, right? And culture. These are things that, we need or we get when we listen to music. Lyrics are often used in like a poetic language, right? And non-literal expressions, things that we need to communicate in a conversation, which can ultimately deepen your understanding of the language. So me listening to a song and they say, Mark Anthony says something in his newest song, Pa Ya, right? And I'm like, what does that mean? Once I learn it, I'm like, oh, so now I can use that in Puerto Rico. Okay. respect, appreciate it. Okay. Music, common phrases, colloquial languages, and culture. Books, right? Spanish language books. This is what Linda was just talking about. Spanish language books, newspapers. I'm about to hit you with one in a second about a newspaper. And magazines show you words and grammar structures in context. Let me tell you something. For the person that thinks that they're going to learn Spanish just by listening to it, it's going to take them longer. Yeah, I said it. It's going to take them longer because they don't want to put in the work. I've told you a million times. I've told everybody that I come across. If you've ever watched Voltron, Voltron was not in his supreme state until he did what? He brought all the components together, right? You cannot be in your supreme state of learning a language if you're not utilizing the reading, the writing, the listening, and the speaking all together to make you Voltron. Same concept with Captain Planet. Same concept with the Power Rangers. They had to come together to make things happen, right? Same concept when you're learning Spanish. You got to put it all together. Speaking, reading, writing, and the listening. All right? Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. What's the best way to pick up connotations? That's a great question. Great question. And it's constant exposure to the particular language in the music, in television, in music. That's the ways that you can, those are some of the best ways to pick up connotations. Okay. Isolated words can change once put in a sentence and a phrase. Absolutely. Very true in Spanish. All right. Absolutely. Yeah, I might be. Sometimes I get in a zone. I'm like Frank the Tank when he was in that debate on Old School, when he just rattled off. He was sitting at the table, at the podium, and he just rattled off a whole bunch of stuff, and then he snapped out of it. He was like, what did I just say? What just happened? Yeah, I get like that sometimes. All right, so we got books, right? Got books. Okay, let me tell you about these newspapers. So, real quick story. Here in Charlotte, in Carolina del Norte, we have what is called Las Noticias. Okay, Las Noticias is a free newspaper in Spanish for Spanish speakers, mostly for native speakers that live here in Charlotte. It's been out for decades, and it's free 99. You don't think I wasn't telling my kids, my students, hey man, I'm going to bring these in every week, read something out of here. I don't care if it's a ad on Fabuloso, okay? I don't care if it's a job application or a vacancy announcement or read something in here that is something that appeals to you. This is back in the day when reading was like actual news, newspaper. Now I guess you can go online, but neither here nor there. They still have them available. You can go out, and so in your community, you might have free versions of these newspapers, and they have the articles that you probably need to read to practice reading, right? Seeing words in a grammatical context. See that context, look it up, Google Translate it, whatever you need to do. You look on Word Reference, you look on SpanishDict.com, you look on ChatGPT, you type that in, you're like, oh, that's what that means in English. It sticks. You've done some active work. Did you study it? No, but you looked it up. That's a part of learning the language, okay? So definitely check that out. Language exchanges. Right, we've talked about that, participating in language exchange programs, whether in person or online, right? That also helps you to allow yourself to learn Spanish in a conversational setting. All right, so these exchanges often they're often based on real life scenarios, right? So when you're talking, you're actually talking about things that are occurring in your life or occurring around your community, right? So exchange with someone in that target language. That is going to help you out. Podcast and radio. Okay. There's a gang of podcasts out here. I'm looking right now and I'm like, okay, I'm about to double dutch my way into creating a podcast on how to learn Spanish or learning Spanish, right? So listening to Spanish language podcasts or radio shows can help you learn about a wide range of topics, like including natural, like conversational language. It can help you with all that. Okay. Yeah. Free 99. Las Noticias. Shout out to them, whoever made that. And it's still free to this day. To this day, it's still free. Apps and online courses. All right. This is you learning in context, right? Many language learning apps and online courses are designed to teach language in context, using dialogues and stories and real life scenarios. If you haven't watched that ChatGPT episode that I talk about, you can actually tell ChatGPT to give you a scenario, a real life scenario in Spanish, and you can go through and read that. Okay. Travel. Can't say it enough. If you have the opportunity to travel to Spanish-speaking countries, travel is probably one of the best ways to learn a language in context on the go, right? You use Spanish in the real-world situations like ordering food, finding out what the bathroom is, do they sell beer and wine, how much does something cost, learning the numbers. Hint, if you've been on my community posts, the last one, okay, I showed you a receipt. That's a real life scenario. And I'm not talking about just showing receipts like people say out here in these streets nowadays. I'm talking about like an actual receipt from a grocery store. I took a picture of it and put it on the community post. And I asked people to tell me, hey, what's the total of this receipt in Spanish? How would you tell me? Got two answers, maybe three, two or three. I know I got more people out there that watch those, right? You gotta practice, right? If you're not practicing, you're not actively engaging when it's time to. Okay, we're giving a lot of passive ways of learning Spanish out right now, but actively engage. That's gonna also help it stick. Okay. Remember, learning in context. We're gonna close out number 4, move to number 5. Remember, learning in context is not about not only about understanding what words mean, right? And how they are used, right? It involves a lot of listening and reading, but also it can include speaking and writing. You want to do those as much as possible. Always think Voltron: speaking, reading, writing, listening, right? Voltron, that's our Voltron when it comes to Spanish. Número 5. Número 5. Once again, if you're picking up what I'm putting down and you're gaining value here, ladies and gentlemen, give this a likes, a thumbs up, please. All right. Share this thing out. We're giving away gems here free today, free 99, free dollars. Okay. Number 5, keep a live vocabulary journal. Uh-oh. Now, I know I might throw you for a loop here when I say live vocabulary journal. What does that mean? It means write down the new words you encounter each day and review them regularly, right? This active engagement can help reinforce your memory of these words. When Google first popped out with these Google Docs, and I was like, oh my God, I can actually share this doc with 30 people. And they can actually type in what they want to type. Oh man. Next level, right? A live vocabulary journal is just essentially you making a table and saying, you know what? Learn a new word today. Put it in the journal. Okay? Put it in the journal. Learn the word for cookie today. What you talking about, Bruce? Hit me up. Let me know. Might be dipping here. All right. Like my man Dre says, might be dipping. Oh, yeah. Voice notes. Absolutely. Voice notes are good too. Yes. Yes. Live journal. But if you got to see it, sometimes, you know how that phrase goes, the little cliche, to see it is to believe it, right? Oh, the receipt. Oh, yeah. Yeah. 1,000, what was it? 1,222 and then 62 cents. Yeah, that was what it was. But hey, if you don't know your numbers, I got 3 videos. I'll chunk it down, break it down, 0 to 50, and then it was 60 through 100, and then it's 200 and beyond. Those 3 videos will help you figure out how to put that together. And I want people to take it, try that. Start there, okay? Start there when you're doing those numbers. All right. But back to the journal. Okay. Voice notes are good. I like to see it to believe it, right? That's how it's going to stick for me. I got to see it. Voice note, I can't necessarily see that the way I want to, right? Typing, I learned the word cookie today. Galleta, put that down on the vocab. I learned a new word today. Telefono, put that down, right? Spell it phonetically. You can put 3 columns there. Spell it the way it's supposed to be spelled. El teléfono, la galleta. Put the next column, the phonetic spelling. What do I mean by that? How it is that you pronounce it correctly. Spell it out the way it sounds to you in that second column. Third column, you can put the English or whatever your native language is, okay? Whatever your native language is, make that third column that, okay? And just add to it on a daily basis. Got to do it, though. Got to do it. Learn this word. ¿Cómo se dice blah, blah, blah? You just talk to somebody that speaks that. Hey, man, ¿cómo se dice flag? Bandera. Oh, add that to my live journal. Okay. Do you have to have context? Does it have to be in a particular order of where I'm putting these things? If you're organized like that, sure, knock yourself out. Me personally, I'm just going to add it all in there. Okay. These are things that I saw. And then so now we get into a story mnemonic situation. Now you're like, okay, well, where did I hear this word? You might want to make that the 4th column. I heard this talking to Joaquin over there on 34th Street. We were talking about X, Y, and Z. Más servilletas. There you go. Whatever works for you, right? Whatever works for you. Love it. Love it. Phonetic spelling. Perfect. Perfect. Okay? Perfect stuff right there. All right, let's move on. Let's move on. We're on number 6. Number 6, número 6, social media. Okay. Now, if you dabble in social media, okay, just gonna give you a little. If you stay away from it, shout out to you. You don't always have to do the typical thing people do with social media. I'm gonna show you how to twist this thing. Okay, and you already know. Everybody knows when you think about TikTok, right? First thing you think about TikTok is the craziness that we see out here in these streets in the United States. But the original purpose for TikTok, a lot of us already know what it was when it was created in China. It's not what it's created for here in the United States. So is our social media actually, it's the social media that we tend to allow ourselves to, to succumb to, right? You can change it though. You can definitely change it around strictly and put parameters on that bad boy and straighten it up and make it fly right for you. All right. So social media from a standpoint of learning Spanish, how are we going to do this, profe? Follow Spanish language accounts. I'm not talking about people teaching you Spanish. I'm going to say this again. I'm not talking about people teaching you Spanish. I'm talking about following Spanish language accounts. All right. You a Bad Bunny fan? Follow Bad Bunny. You a Karol G fan? Follow Karol G. Okay. People that speak a little bit of English, right? They're not fluent in English. Those are the people you need to be following. Okay. Don Miguel. Follow that guy. I don't even know who he is. I follow him. Okay. Guy just gets on live and he goes ham. Speaking and talking. Okay. I couldn't point him out. I don't know who he is. Don Miguelo. That's what his name is. Don Miguelo. I don't have any idea who that guy is. But I follow him, right? The hashtags, learn the hashtags in Spanish. The influencers on social media platforms that are Spanish speakers, right? What I'm telling you is the exposure to everyday language in social media, if you're somebody on there, can be a valuable supplement to more formal learning, all right? So if you need to shake up your parameters for social media to help you learn Spanish from a passive standpoint, okay, do it. Absolutely do it. All right. As we get ready to land this plane, damas y caballeros, estamos aquí con número 7, which is mimicry. This is probably one of my favorite because I didn't put these in a particular order, right? But mimicry is probably my favorite. And I'm going to give you a prime example of mimicry and somebody that does it well and it actually helped them to learn Spanish. See, you understand this? You mean to tell me not one even at least think about Googling the receipt answer? I guess not. Man, I would have even taken that. You know what I'm saying? There you go. I like it, Linda. I like it. Good stuff. Okay, there we go. That's a good idea. Good idea. Right? Even if you're like counting out stuff in the gym, think about this. If you're in the gym, on another perspective, you're counting out reps, right? Or I need to do, pec flies. How do you say that in Spanish? Like, just that's how we talk about using it in your hobbies, right? Using it in your hobbies. Let's get back to this mimicry thing, though, right? A perfect example of somebody that learned Spanish just by mimicking other people that spoke Spanish was Jack Black. Okay. Grew up in Southern California. Okay. Had a Mexican friend. Learned Spanish from his Mexican friend. How did he learn it? He said he first started out just by mimicking how his friend sounded when he spoke Spanish. Now, people can say, oh, man, you're not supposed to do that, blah, blah, blah. Why not? It's the first stage in actually becoming being able to speak the language correctly is learning how to sound like the person speaking the language so you don't sound like a gringo. So the high and mighty said, oh, you shouldn't mimic people speaking. Okay, whatevs. Like if you're doing it for cruel intentions, understandable, right? If you're doing this with the end all be all deal of I'm trying to learn this language and I want to sound like the person that I'm talking to, do it. Who cares? If they're not out there trying to make you better, forget them. I need to sound like the person that I want to sound like in this language. Back to Jack Black. Learned Spanish, right? Boom. Learned it from his friend, right? Had a couple Mexican friends. Next thing you know, Jack Black's in a movie. One of my favorite movies, Nacho Libre. I swear to sweet Jesus, between Nacho Libre with Jack Black and Will Ferrell in that movie, forget what the movie was, but he literally acted the entire movie. It sucked, but he went through the entire movie in Spanish. Completely filmed the movie in Spanish. Exactly, Linda. Exactly. Especially if you're trying to learn it, you don't have cruel intentions. Absolutely. But needless to say, the mimicry is going to help things stick. I promise you it will. I promise you it will. Okay? So mimicry, or the imitation, right? Imitation is a powerful tool when learning a new language. It can help you with what? Pronunciation, intonation, and even understanding the structure of the language. The intonation is key in Espanol, right? Especially if you want to learn it from a Mexican dialectic standpoint or from a Dominican dialectic standpoint. Anytime, just like the last couple of days when I was in Mexico, people are like, ¿cómo aprendiste español? Mexicans, right? It was like, suenas como una persona de Caribe, blah, blah, blah. I was like, hey, that's why I learned it. I learned Spanish from Caribbean people. Okay. Now I learned like intricacies in San Jose, but they have like a really easy way to learn it. You don't hear that many nuances in the learning of the language there. But Panama, Puerto Rico, Cuba, and La República Dominicana, talking about nuances, baby. Been learning that nuance, the intonation and the pronunciation of words. That's how I picked it up. Just by listening, like, I want to sound like those guys. Okay. Helped out. And even understanding the structure. So understanding how things are created and set up. For the longest, I never understood, perfect example, I never understood how people would say, in Dominican Republic, ¿Cómo tú estás? I was like, yo, why are they saying ¿Cómo tú estás? Every time I've learned it is ¿Cómo estás or ¿Cómo estás tú? And so I asked people in the debate, I'm like, why do you say ¿Cómo tú estás? They're just like, because it makes sense to us. That's always going to be the answer anyway. But I'm like, all right, cool. So that's what you say here. Now I know, and no one's half the battle, right? So it helps you understand by the mimicry and using it. People don't see it as like, they see it as normal. Like, oh, he like legit knows how to function in our version of Spanish, right? So what are some examples that I need to know, right? That I can use mimicry to help mimicry to build my Spanish vocabulary. Repeat dialogues from movies and TV shows. Choose a scene from a Spanish language movie or TV show. Listen to a line of dialogue, pause it, and then repeat what was said. Uh-oh. It sounds like he's going to take a long time. Now, you obviously can't do this in family night when there's 4 people trying to watch TV. You're like, whoa, 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 run that back. You can't do that, right? But when you're by yourself and you're alone, right? I sit alone in my room. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like do that on your own. All right. What's my man say? Is that the one that be cursing saying "Maldita Diablo"? Yeah. Toma. Yeah. Love it. Those are the movies that I'm like, bro, you want to pick up something? Watch like Nacho Libre in that movie. I forget the one with Will Ferrell. He's like a cowboy. It's something crazy. Somebody Google that. Let me know what it is. I definitely want to watch it again. It was wild. Nacho Libre is super wild, but it's low-key one of my favorite movies ever. But so when you're watching these movies and you're repeating the movies, the dialects, the dialogues, or I'm sorry, you're repeating the dialogues in these movies and TV shows, try to imitate not just the words, but also the speaker's intonation, rhythm of the statement that they're saying, and the pronunciation. I'm going to say that again so you'll know what I'm talking about, and you can pick it up while I'm putting it down and write it down in tu cuaderno or put it in your live doc or wherever you're putting notes on this. This is not just to hear me run my mouth. I want you to take these, utilize these. Try to imitate the words when you're listening to these dialogues or TV shows. But aside from that, also, you want to mimic the speaker's intonation, the rhythm, and the pronunciation. Okay? Excuse me. Shadow language tutors or podcasters. Shadowing, you know what that is. It's a technique where you listen to a native speaker and then to try to repeat what they say as closely as possible. This is something that is very similar. This is why I like Busuu, right? This is why I like Busuu, the language app. Busuu they will say it out loud. And I'm sure there's other, all the apps, they do it, right? They have you say it out loud, right? But then as you say it out loud, you can send it off to other people, okay? I'll send it off and this person will essentially, listen to it and they'll say, oh, that's good. That was really good. And then they'll get back to me and they'll say, hey, man, that was really, really good. Okay, that was really, really good. You did a great job on that. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. And then I move to the next phrase, right? Because we're learning in chunks, okay? So those are things that you want to take into account, okay? Those are things that you want to take into account when you are learning these languages, okay? When you're learning these languages. Let's go ahead and get to the next one in mimicry, reading out loud, okay? Oh, well, we'll get to reading out loud in a second. Let's just add a little bit on to the shadowing component. So when you are doing the shadow technique, it can be done with a language learning podcast, YouTube videos, or even with a language tutor in a one-on-one lesson. Okay. Next reason we use mimicry, or a caveat of mimicry, is mimic singers in Spanish language songs. I don't know if you've seen the Instagram post from there's a father and his daughter, and they're riding in the car and she's singing a Selena song. It's a young African-American child and she's singing fluently the words from Selena. Now you might be saying, well, why would a 7-year? This is literally like last year. People are like, hey, how does she know that song? right? How does she know the entire song? The thing is this. Listen to it over and over again. Then she even had the rhythm, the cadence, the pronunciation down. All right. If you've ever seen that, the little girl singing, the young African-American girl, I mean, she's probably like 6 or 7. Sung the song perfectly. I see you, Bruce. I see you. I'm about to land the plane, babe. I'm about to land this plane. I got to get these free gems out, Bruce, right? I got to get these free gems out. People don't, I've got them. While I got them, I'm going to give them. You know what I mean? That's what I'm going to do. Read out loud. This is where the voice notes come into play that Bruce Wayne was talking about. Read out loud, but record yourself reading, right? Find a text in Spanish. It can be a news article, a short story, a transcript of a podcast, or anything, right? And read it out loud. This helps you get your mouth and tongue used to the physical act of producing the Spanish sound, okay? And record it. And record it every week, the same paragraph every week. Now, this is not to say that I don't need to record other paragraphs, but record every week. Listen to it before you record it again the next week. As you build that library of 4 weeks, of 6 weeks, of 8 weeks, you can go back and say, did I get better? Did I get a 1% better each week? Okay. Are you hearing yourself become more fluidly? Are you developing cadence? Are you hitting the intonation right? The voice notes, good thing, don't delete them. Shows your progress, okay? Shows your progress. You can record your voice and the app will give you feedback. There's a couple of language learning apps, like I was talking about. They give you feedback, right? There's some that have voice recognition technology, right? Helping you to mimic the correct sounds more accurately. So definitely check those out. Imitate native speakers in conversation. We've talked about this, right? That's where Jack Black became a guru at it. If you're in a conversation with a native speaker, don't just focus on what they're saying. Pay attention to how they're saying it. If you are somebody like me and you've gone to the DR, you're going to Cuba, Puerto Rico, you know every word that has an S on the end of it, they drop that S. It's just what they do. Every word that has an R in it, it sounds like an L. Every V, like in Victor, sounds like a B, as in boy. That's why we have to say bere burro or bere vaca. It's a little inside thing. But when they say these words, I've got to sound like them, right? I want to sound like them. Their 2 L's sound like a Y some places, sounds like a J in others, okay? Mimic the person that you're talking to get that sound down that you want, right? Try to mimic their pronunciation, their intonation, their body language to get a full sense of how Spanish is being communicated to you, right? So remember, the goal of mimicry is not just to learn new words, but to get a better sense of how Spanish sounds in use and to make those sounds more natural in your own speech, right? It's about getting comfortable with the language as a living spoken form of communication, right? That's what it comes down to when we're talking about mimicry, okay? So, and we got to remember that the most effective strategy can vary from person to person, right? Everything's not going to work the same for everybody, right? It's important to find what methods work best for you. It's not just about the quantity of vocabulary you learn, but also how effectively you can recall and use it, okay? So, needless to say, we've got a lot in our tank today, all right? We went a little hard in the paint today. I'm not going to lie, okay? Not going to lie. And I would say this is extreme. This is an extreme embarkation or embark. We've embarked upon a lot of things today when it comes to navigating these Spanish word oceans together and helping you fast track your vocabulary building, right? And I hope you leave this session with a treasure chest of full strategies to boost your Spanish vocabulary. Remember, each word is like a valuable pearl, adding beauty and depth to your language skills. So don't forget these unconventional strategies: labeling your surroundings, creating mnemonic devices, integrating Spanish into your hobbies, learning in context, and using the power of mimicry, right? I'm certain that if you commit to these strategies, your Spanish vocabulary will improve, okay? Bruce Rain, gracias, señor. All right, and it'll happen faster than you normally thought it would happen, okay? Because you're learning actively when you study, and you're doing it passively with these unconventional methods and strategies. And so remember, learning a language is not a sprint. This is a marathon. This thing does not happen overnight. I promise you it doesn't. I've seen videos on here and I'm like super perturbed, and I don't want to be a troll, but there are people that have come on to YouTube and they'll say 0 to fluent using ChatGPT. It doesn't work like that. People like, yo, I learned Spanish in 30 days. It doesn't work like that. Man, what can you learn in 30 days and be great at it? I'll wait. I definitely would tell you this. Somebody said they learned how to make mac and cheese or potato salad 30 days ago. You think we're going to let them be the ones to roll up the Thanksgiving with the mac and cheese and the potato salad? I'll wait. I'll wait. It's a marathon. Be patient with yourself. I'm going to say that again. Be patient with yourself. It's not going to happen overnight for you like it happened for John over here. I'll give you a prime example. I've seen people with YouTube channels blow up overnight, right? Go from 0 to 130,000. Cool for them. Me, on the other hand, I'm working coming up on the rough side of the mountain, if you know what I'm talking about. It's taking some time. Am I okay with that? Absolutely. It's a marathon for me. I mean, it's the marathon like Nipsey used to say, right? We out here, and it's going to be some time on the grind, okay? Take your time. Be patient with yourself. You're not just memorizing words when it comes to vocabulary. You're opening up a whole new world of experiences and culture and communication. And make sure you're learning vocab that is relevant to you in your life. Context is key. Context is key. Thank you for joining me today. Fantastic voyage that we just took. I'm like super, super excited for you. I'm motivated for you to take some of these unconventional methods and get out here and learn, okay? Get out here and learn. Can't wait to see your Spanish language journey flourish, right? And all you got to do is keep practicing, stay curious, and most importantly, have fun while you're learning the language, right? Remember, we'll be setting sail again real soon, next Saturday, for our next live stream. So mark your calendars and don't forget to hit that notification bell. Hasta la próxima, mis valientes navegantes, right, del idioma. Until next time, my brave language navigators, soy Profe Don Omar. Nos vemos.